In a quiet village nestled among the misty mountains of Japan, where the bamboo forests whispered in the wind and time seemed to flow as slowly as the rivers that wound through the valleys, there lived a revered Zen master named Ryokan. He was a man of few possessions, yet his presence was rich with a deep, unshakable peace. His home was a small hut, barely more than a room, sparsely decorated with only the essentials: a cushion for meditation, a scroll with a simple brushstroke of calligraphy, and a small wooden shelf holding a single, delicate porcelain teacup. This teacup was no ordinary object. It had been gifted to Ryokan many years ago by a traveling monk, handcrafted by an artisan whose name had long since faded from memory. Its surface was ivory white, etched with faint blue lines that curled like vines. It had a small crack along its side, a flaw that many would have considered a reason to discard it. But Ryokan kept it and cherished it. To him, the teacup represented impermanence, the essence of the Zen way. Every morning, he would pour hot tea into this cracked vessel, sit by his window and sip in silence as the sun rose over the mountains. The crack reminded him that all things break, all things pass, and nothing at all truly belongs to us. In that fracture, he found beauty. In that imperfection, he found truth. One afternoon, a young man from the village, troubled and restless, came to Ryokan's hut. He bowed deeply, eyes full of anxiety, and said, "Master, I've come seeking peace. My mind is full of noise. I worry about my future. I regret my past. I fear I will never be enough." Ryokan gestured for him to sit. Without a word, he prepared tea. The young man watched as the old master handled the kettle with care, steam rising in gentle spirals. Ryokan poured the tea into the old cracked teacup and placed it in front of the young man. The young man hesitated, eyeing the chip along the rim, the visible crack down the side. "Master," he said cautiously, "this cup is broken." Ryokan smiled, his eyes twinkling. "Yes," he said, "it is." The young man waited for more, some deeper explanation, but Ryokan said nothing. The silence stretched, broken only by the wind brushing through the bamboo outside. The young man picked up the teacup and drank. The tea was warm, earthy, calming. After a moment, Ryokan spoke again. "You see the crack and you think the cup is flawed. You think it should be thrown away, but that crack is part of its story, part of its beauty." The young man looked down at the cup in his hands. "But what if it breaks completely? Then it will become something else," Ryokan replied. "Perhaps many pieces, perhaps dust. Everything changes, even we." He pointed gently to the mountains outside. "The peaks you see now were once the floor of the ocean. The trees were once seeds. The body you have was once a child, and before that, a thought in someone's mind." The young man lowered the cup. "So I shouldn't be afraid?" Ryokan smiled again. "Be afraid if you must. But understand the nature of fear. Fear clings to permanence. It wants things to stay, but nothing stays. Not joy, not sorrow, not success or failure. Like this tea, it is hot now. Soon it will cool, then it will be gone, and yet while it's here, we drink. That is enough." The young man was quiet. The wind outside had softened, like even nature paused to listen. "But what about the future?" he asked. "What about my plans, my goals?" Ryokan picked up the empty kettle and turned it over. Nothing came out. "When the pot is empty," he said, "do you still pour?" The young man shook his head. "Then why do you pour your thoughts into moments that do not exist?" He touched the crack on the teacup. "This moment is cracked. It is imperfect, but it is the only one you have. Fill it with care. Drink it with presence." They sat in silence again, the sun dipping lower, casting long shadows across the floor. As the young man stood to leave, he bowed deeply and said, "Thank you, Master." Ryokan nodded. "Take nothing with you but your breath." Years passed, and Ryokan grew older. The seasons turned like pages in a book, each one fleeting, each one beautiful. One day, while preparing tea as always, Ryokan's sleeve brushed the teacup and it fell to the floor. It shattered, the pieces scattered across the wooden floor like the last notes of a song. Ryokan looked down at them, then he smiled. He knelt, picked up one shard and held it to the light. "So," he whispered, "it is time." He did not mourn the cup. He did not attempt to glue it back together. He simply gathered the pieces, wrapped them in cloth, and placed them beside the hearth. Then he prepared tea in a wooden bowl. When the villagers asked him later about the broken cup, Ryokan only said, "It served its purpose, now it rests. Now it..." And so the tale of the broken teacup lived on, not as a story of loss, but as a lesson in letting go. We cling to so much, our plans, our identities, our possessions. We hold on tightly, believing that by doing so we protect ourselves from the pain of loss. But in truth, the tighter we cling, the more we suffer. Everything you love, everything you fear, everything you are, will one day be gone. Not because life is cruel, but because it is alive. Like the tea in Ryokan's cup, it must be sipped while it's warm. It must be savored, not stored. The crack in the cup reminds us beauty lies not in perfection, but in presence, in the willingness to accept that what we have is fleeting, and that is what makes it precious. So the next time something breaks, whether it's a teacup, a relationship, or a plan, pause, look at the pieces. Hold them with gratitude. They were never meant to last forever. They were meant to teach you how to let go, and maybe, just maybe, the most broken things are the ones that make us whole.